and welcome to Six Figure Signature Offers, the podcast for women in business who want to create brands that become the hot tamale of their industry and sold out scalable offers that bring home the bacon without burning them out. I'm your host, online business strategist Robin Birkin. I've gone from managing 8-figure marketing budgets and big teams to creating 2 multi-6-figure businesses in part-time hours by design. If you're ready to attract Cloud9 clients in droves, sell out your scalable offers, and not bring your laptop to the beach, then welcome, let's go. If you are someone who is arguably in the mindset realm, maybe you are a life coach, maybe you're a psychologist, maybe you're a therapist, hypnotherapist, whatever it is, and if you are someone who is arguably not a baby turtle in business, you may completely relate to this podcast episode because 2025 for me felt like the year when I was constantly swatting away mindset issues and limiting beliefs that I didn't even think or know that I had. They were things that I just didn't see coming at all until all of a sudden they smacked me in the face and I had to shift and change the way that I do things, arguably for the better. So there is a certain time in your business when you will come to the point and it almost feels like the number one thing that you need is support with strategy, when actually the number one thing you need is support with mindset and nervous system regulation and giving yourself permission to dream bigger, bolder, more audacious. We asked the question in the Mastermind just recently of what is your revenue goal? And everyone had like big goals, but then there also came down to it when I just looked at everyone, I was like, secretly, do you wish that you would doubled it? Or you could do double that? And everyone was like, actually, yeah. So dream bigger. And what would it look like for you to dream bigger? Sometimes that is all in the mindset stuff. And so here are some of the mindset things that have come up for me as someone who earns multiple 6 figures per year. And hopefully you can relate. At the end of this podcast episode, I'm going to share with you some of the questions that you might ask yourself or what you might ponder in order to uncover potentially some of the limiting beliefs that you currently have that you can this year smash. And if any of you are like, oh my God, yes to dismantling limiting beliefs and mindsets that you've had, we're in the year of the horse now. Hopefully you've shed it all in the year of the snake and you're ready to go forth and go beyond. And if for any of you who are listening, by the way, this is a bit of a side note / behind the scenes. We have the goal this year to move to a video podcast. So as part of that, I've been rearranging my study in order to make a little nook for podcast recording, just generally changing up the way that we do things. And I had 2 times where I tried to record directly into the podcast software. A couple of years ago, I had a podcast manager who was an audio engineer, and I record on something called a Zoom audio recorder. It's not like any of the microphones you see any of the people on the internet these days using. So I use that. I still, to this day, I just tried to record in my study, didn't pan out for me. And so I've gone back. This episode is now back to being recorded in my walk-in robe. So for any of you who feel like, oh my God, it's got to be fancy, I've got to be in a studio, I've got to do this and that, I want to firmly start off by dismantling that belief. I reached more than 1 million podcast downloads with arguably a good sound quality, recording in my walk-in robe with a Zoom audio recorder. Please do not get hung up on all of the microphone stuff, because when I first started, I started recording my podcast with a set of headphones plugged into my mobile phone and recorded again in my walk-in robe. It is a great place to record. You can also record in your car and have exceptional audio quality. So please don't get hung up on the tech. Recording a podcast is something I highly, highly recommend if you want to be seen as an authority in your niche. And also, don't be afraid to suck at the start of things. I just tried twice to record this podcast in the study using different technology. It didn't work. That's fine. I will keep trying, and I'm happy to suck at the start of doing that process because I know that it's all a journey, and I know that you don't need to be stopped by tech. You can always start super, super easily. So for anyone out there who wants to start a podcast, this is my little love note to you. Please just get it started. It gets to be easy. It's not that complicated. So happy in the DMs if you would like me to share any of my process, any of the tech, and the way that we do things. So those are not the beliefs that I dismantled this year or last year. So starting with at the beginning of the year, so let me just set the scene. The Mastermind was working super well. The Mastermind is my flagship offer. This is either the 6th or the 7th year that I've had this Mastermind. It's my longest serving offer. It is one of my most lucrative, if not the most lucrative offer that I've ever had. It's the offer that works the best. I love all of my clients and my past clients who have been in the Mastermind. They are such incredible human beings with big hearts who are doing incredible things in the world. And so I started this year, you know, when you have a product and the messaging is on point, that beautiful sweet spot when you reach that great messaging, when people are like commenting on your posts and they're like, resonated with this so much. They're reaching out in the DMs, in their application forms to join the program. They are repeating that messaging and those desires right back to you. That is where I was. We had just come off $100,000 month. I was still attracting incredible people into the Mastermind. I came off what I thought was a really good Black Friday promotion. And as part of the process of what I teach almost like a flash sale process. I was super happy with it. Everything. We had a really great retention rate. So we were hovering between like 80 and 90% retention rate into the Mastermind. All going super well. And we were also doing the renovation on the house. And so I started the year with the goal. I wasn't chasing big, giant revenue goals at the beginning of the year. I was like, you know what? I want to hit 24 in the Mastermind and I want to coast along for a little bit. Well, I started the year and started very quickly to feel very exhausted. And for someone who runs and teaches a very scalable model of business, I am someone who, even if I wanted to work really long hours, I probably couldn't work beyond about 20 to 25 hours per week, even if I wanted to. So I have this business that is arguably very scalable and very spacious. My calendar does not have very many commitments on it. And yet I started the year feeling very at capacity. We welcomed some new people into the Mastermind. Then I closed off the February launch early, tried again in May, had a few more people. We reached 19 and I very much felt like, oh my God, despite my best efforts to increase my capacity, I was like firmly at capacity in the Mastermind. And the belief that I had was that I needed to energetically increase my capacity. I was like, I need to do more. I need to open myself up at almost like a spiritual mindset level to hold more. And I don't know if you've ever felt like this. Like I almost need to have the capacity to absorb more, to be able to work more or work faster, to increase my output, to be able to do things more efficiently. And it just all came almost like crashing down as this massive thing that actually, like, no way, that's not the right way to do things. And through the year, I had this epiphany that I actually don't need to increase my capacity to hold more. Do you know what I need to do to increase my capacity? I need to be held more. And I will die on this hill that why do we expect women to keep absorbing more, doing more, trying to compete, trying to raise our kids, spend more time with our kids, while simultaneously doing more in the house, while simultaneously reaching for the stars and doing more and holding more and having more capacity? Well, if you want all of those things, that is fine. But if you want to get all of those things and it not feel energetically, physically, mentally exhausting, do you know how you do it? You are held more. You are calling in more support in all of the different areas in your life. And that was this fundamental shift. I don't need to hold more. I need to be held more. That looks like more support at a household level without the guilt. It looks like more support in my business, even if it is just in the context of not feeling like I have to do and think all on my own, that I am not a committee of one. And being a committee of one, even though I was at a place in my business where I was like, you know what, I've kind of reached what I thought was like you set yourself a particular goal or goals in your business. And I had this very particular goal for the wages that I wanted to pay myself, and I reached it. And I reached what I thought was the top revenue figure for what I wanted to do. And I was like, oh, hang on a second. And that's a whole nother mindset, like level issue all on its own. But what would it look like to reach and exceed your revenue goals and it still feel spacious and energetically doable? And the way that that looks is for you to be more supported to the fact that in 2026, my word or words is fully supported. What would that look like as a woman to feel like throughout all levels of your life, almost like you have a wife or wives? What would it look like to not have to think all of the thoughts on your own? What would it look like to when, I don't know, you're having a bad month, that you're not having a bad month on your own, that there's a team, that it's shared? What would it look like for other areas of the mental load, physical load, whatever it is, to be shared, or there's other people doing it so that you get to lead and be the visionary? And never before in my life did I think that that would be the place that I'm at, but that is the place that I am at. I want to be so supported that I cannot help but succeed, and it cannot help but feel spacious. And that is how I have the capacity and feel like I have the capacity this year to not just sit at 24, but to reach 48, even up to 100, and not skip a beat in delivery and feel energetically still super spacious. And part of that came from dismantling so many other things behind the scenes. The team, the systems, the way that we onboard, the way that we sell into the mastermind. So many other things have changed, but it all started with the concept of feeling like I needed to be fully supported, and I did not want all of the things, even if it's just mentally, to rely on me. I want to be held more. The next thing is, and I guess as part of that, I had and this ran strong, I had the belief that having co-coaches inside your programs meant providing less support, even to the point that in one of my sales pages, one of the reasons why I was like, what makes this mastermind different? And I was like, because you won't be palmed off to support coaches. So this belief ran strong for me. I was like, I don't want anyone to feel like they join my mastermind and I am not there for them. Like they're just like, I was there to sell at the front end, and then I was off on my way once they bought. And I have completely shifted the way that I think about co-coaches, because I will always be your person in the mastermind. I will always be the person that if you buy my program, and that is a program that has access to me, like a high ticket program like my mastermind, you will have me there supporting you, there on the daily to be able to troubleshoot, strategize, lend you my brain in the business. But here's where I've changed. What if having co-coaches didn't mean less than me, less of me, but what if having co-coaches inside the mastermind meant you had access to other people who had other skill sets and expertise that I didn't have. And you got to have a more full service experience. What if it's not that you got less of me, but you got faster access to support? So the thing that sticks in my mind about this is obviously I have UK clients. I will often check in for my mastermind clients like at the end of the day to see if they had any questions. We have a hot seat call that actually runs basically after school drop off if you're in the UK. So I'm very mindful of my UK clients. We've had some strong UK interest in the last 6 to 12 months. So yes to supporting my UK clients, but arguably there's a point at which it's like the afternoon in the UK and I'm asleep. Well, what if that meant that I had a support coach in the UK or the US and it was their daytime, and so you got faster support because we were, as far as the team goes, we were like global. What if that meant you got faster response times? There's just so many levels at which I now think, what if having support coaches inside the mastermind actually meant better, faster support? And you ultimately, with any program, the result is the result. Like, people come into the mastermind because they're like, yes to multiple 6 figures, feeling like you're regulated, not holding a stressful business. It's like a calm, nothing is an emergency type of business. You got a pretty lean team. You are not starting every month feeling super, super stressed by payroll, and you're working part-time hours. That's the business. You come into the mastermind because that's what you want. So that's what we are focused on helping you get. And what if you get there faster and easier because you have that additional support? Obviously, at my end, that means that I am more fully supported. I am held more. I have more capacity to go on leave. If I'm sick, I don't have to cancel a call. I have backup. All of these different ways in which I'm now like, seriously, by June, I want to have 1 to 2 co-coaches amplifying the results on the level of support we have inside the mastermind. That is such a goal of mine. And such a, that was like tattooed into my brain that I've now completely dismantled that belief. The next thing that I thought, like I said, I had this revenue goal in mind for the longest time, and this specifically a goal for my wages, and I reached it. And then I was like, now what? And like I said, with the mastermind, I said to my clients on a call, what's your dreamy revenue goal? Right. Do you secretly want to double it? And everyone was like, kind of do, right? Because you're ambitious, and because imagine the freedom that would provide to you. So I reached that revenue goal, and it was almost that similar thing of, actually, I kind of want to double it. What would it look like to double it with ease? And that is sort of the trajectory that I'm on now. And there has been this constant process of wishing to dismantle the belief that you can have a big business and a life. You can have a business that feels easy breezy and doesn't feel like pressure, and you can have all of those things at once. It requires doing things differently. Does that mean it's a linear path? No. Does that mean that nothing will break? No. I can tell you from experience, I reached that revenue level and then most of the things broke, and we've now been rebuilding it 10 times better. And everyone talks about you need systems, blah, blah. Yes, you do. Can confirm that is what we needed. So we are like all about the systems. We are deep in the systems. We have re-looked at how we do everything. I've looked at who's on the team. What do they do? What is the goal? What is the end point? All of these things. But I used to believe that you cannot have a business beyond $200,000 or, choose a revenue figure and also have a life. And that's just not true. It is so possible. And if you look even at one example, and one of the things I do that I hope you do too, is I look at people who are further along from me, and I don't feel jealous. I don't feel comparisonitis. Sometimes I look at people's businesses and I'm like, oh, geez, I'm exhausted just looking at you. But sometimes I look at people's businesses and I just feel inspired. If that is possible for them, that means it's possible for me too. And let me case in point, the Justin Welsh. So Justin Welsh used to be a top executive. He once had a giant corporate career, but called 911 once because he thought he was having a heart attack. Turns out he'd had like chronic stress from his job. And then he built a business. He now has a one-person business. One person. And I think last year or the year before, he reached $4 million with a one-person business. He does that because he does a few things excellently. But if he can do it, I can do it. And his philosophy is very much the same as mine. Your business should not be the most stressful thing in your life. Your business should give you life and give you freedom. And you don't want a bloated business, right? That just adds more pressure. What you do want is a business that feels free and regulating and just so simple on your brain, and it just works. So anyway, if he can have a $4 million business, surely that is also possible for me too. So that is the new frame. The sky is the limit. Until I find out that it's absolutely 100% not, the sky is the limit on what you can achieve. The next one, this is also a major one for me, is that I used to very much be on the bandwagon of you check the data, then you pivot if you need to pivot. And I am not in the camp of consistently rolling shit uphill or trying to put lipstick on a pig. However, sometimes, and this has come from coaching a number of clients this year, sometimes the reason why you are failing and your offers and your business is not working is because you keep changing and pivoting. You are not sticking with anything and you keep throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You'll have a launch, it doesn't go to plan. And then instead of looking at, okay, well, hang on, how do I stay the course? What would it look like to have something that fundamentally the bones of which are really good, instead of continuing to pivot your business, pivot your niche, pivot your launches, pivot your messaging, not new offer. Sometimes you just need to stay the course and then double down on this one thing if it has good bones and allow it to work. And discerning whether something has good bones or not is exactly what we do inside Peace or Profit. We look at, okay, well, what is the thing that is going to help you reach your revenue goals in the hours that you want to work, with the type of work and clients that is going to work for you, and we really help you double down on that. And sometimes it's really easy, especially if you're an entrepreneur and you're creative and you get almost like a dopamine hit from new stuff, that shiny object. And sometimes I will say to people, no, hang on, being bored is the goal. Like, actually, if your business is a little bit boring and a little bit rinse and repeat, isn't that what you signed up for? Isn't that what you wanted? And there's different ways that we can keep things a little bit exciting, but ultimately, sometimes your long-term interest is safety and security and repetition and stuff just working and feeling easeful. And we need to look outside the business at other ways we can keep you entertained, or how do we change the wrapping on what you do, change your lead magnets, all of that front-endy kind of stuff, rather than continuing to change the offer, because maybe your audience is just flipping and changing and they don't know who you are and what you do and what you stand for. And that's the reason sometimes that things aren't working. Right? And then you look at the data, and the data's going to lie because the data is representative of a really confused audience, or of you not actually putting in the reps in whatever it is, like a social media channel or whatever, in order for it to work. So there's too much chopping and changing. And sometimes you literally just need to stay the course and let things settle down and be really consistent and go again and again for things to work. The next belief that I had that I dismantled was that you don't need coaching unless you are having a hard time in business or you're scaling. Sure, get coaching. But if you're just staying steady and doubling down on what works and implementation, the thought that I had was you don't really need coaching in that place. And obviously this is a very personal thing. Maybe you don't need coaching. I mean, do you ever 100% need coaching? No. Surely you can look on YouTube and find every single answer that you need. The reason why you might sign up for coaching is because you want access to someone else's brain, or maybe you want to be in the room, or maybe you want to help troubleshooting. Maybe you want that personal support. Maybe you want the shortcut. Maybe you want to get further, faster, whatever it is. So coaching is such an optional thing. I do not have time to fuck around. So that is why often I will always sign up to coaching. Specifically, these days I'm a mastermind girl, partly because I run a mastermind, but also because I joined a mastermind and I was like, this is so good. And then kind of always wanted a mastermind. But at the early stage of last year, I was like, you know what? We're going into a renovation. I just don't think I have the brain space or the capacity to sprint in my business. I'm just going to be treading water. That was literally the goal at the start of the year. I was like, so I'm not going to re-sign in my mastermind because I'm just going to tread water. So I don't really have any questions. Like my messaging is working. I've got an intake, like all of the things are working. So why would I, sign up to what is a significant investment? Because like at that point, like why would I do that? Well, I can now tell you why I would do that. Because again, this concept of being held, and when I have low capacity, everything at one point got confusing and a little bit sticky, and I started to feel my mindset be a little bit wobbly. And I love the community of a mastermind. There is a saying that lives rent-free in my brain that I heard only a couple of weeks ago. It was, the smartest person in the room is the room. And I speak a lot about this concept of almost like the third brain. There's your brain, there's my brain, and then when we get together with everyone or arguably just even put our two brains together, there's a third brain. And I really missed that. When you feel like there's a lot going on in your life, like the renovation, like how many times have I said renovation? That is because it is so all freaking consuming in my life. But when you have other stuff going on, even if you are just treading water, there is so much power in not running your business by yourself in isolation. And it can help you through all seasons of your business. Even just the consistency, even when you have brain fog and you just need to bounce stuff off other people, or even if you feel like you're limping ahead in business, because life is a lot, right? Just showing up to your hot seat calls can be so supportive, even if you are just there to energetically have that transference of energy. So, as I've indicated, I rejoined my mastermind because I also value the consistency of support. I love the time zones and the format of how it works. So I rejoined my mastermind, and oh my God, the relief that I feel. So even though I am looking to increase my revenue, but I didn't join for that reason. I have all of the strategy. I know what ideas I have. I know how I want to run things. I know the goalposts, but it's there to energetically support me. I'm there for the community and the life force that being connected offers me. And that's why I joined the mastermind. It's not there because necessarily I'm scaling. It's not there because things aren't working. It's there to support me in feeling like energetically energized and feel held through increasing that capacity. The very last one that I have dismantled is that, now, I've been very vocal all of the time about I'm not here for the people who want a high-rise building and a team of 50 people. But you're not my people. I'm not there for the people who want to start every month with $100,000 in payroll expenses. That feels very stressful for me. That feels like it would be a stressful way to run a business and not necessarily enjoyable for me. I have mentored 20 people before in the past, and all I did was put out HR fires constantly. And then I'd have like 1 or 2 hours at the end of the day to actually run my own business. So that's not enjoyable for me. However, do you know who else I'm not really comparing myself to? 20-year-old Jennies who have endless amounts of energy and endless amounts of output. You guys, I'm 44 this year. I do not have the energy to keep up with the youngins. So if her and I were in a race, she would win. I am no longer trying to compete with flashy transitions, fancy reels, 101 different types of hooks and this and that's, and like then we do this, and then we use Higgs-filled AI, and I love experimenting with that stuff. I do have the goal this year to be a prolific content creator. However, I'm not competing at that output speed level. Do you know what I am competing on? And I think I can win? Wise women energy. You cannot compete with me. If we're in a race together, she's going to win on output and pace and speed. She can work all night if she needs to, and I love that for her, and that's what she should do. If you are super young and you have the time and the energy, compete at that level, because that's where you will win, right? You will win on your energy. I will win in my wisdom. I will win because I've had more than 25 years experience. I have seen it all at this point. I have marketed through multiple recessions. I have marketed 8-figure advertising budgets. I've had 6-figure golf days. I've had all of the relationship building. I've had the conversations. I've had to go out there on foot and sell stuff. I've had to pick up the phone to 80 people every single month and sell. I have had to market before we would be able to get any real stats from what we were doing. We would put out newspaper ads, and how do you know how many people exactly have read my ad without trying to like piecemeal together ways to get that two-way communication back? I've had to market with direct mail pieces, like actual mail that you put in someone's letterbox, where every line of that letter has a purpose. That is the level of skill I bring to the table. I have had a team of between 16 and 20 at any given time. The number of people I've interviewed for positions, the number of people I've onboarded for positions, the amount of troubleshooting that I have had to go through. Like, I've had to code websites before. You cannot compete with the expertise and breadth. I've had PR crises. I've had things where our company didn't even do anything, and the newspaper made up this story about, like, just completely misperceived the story, and the next minute we were on the front page of the newspaper with reporters camped outside the front doors of our workplace and navigated that level of PR disaster. That is what I've navigated. And then I also have the level of emotional maturity and like shit-showedness of life, of understanding intimately what it is like to go through and navigate hardship, and what it is like to still show up, what it is like to handle life with a set of grace and standards that you can only learn when you've been through it and experienced it, and also supported clients through it. Separation and divorce, people passing away, and like loved ones passing away, supporting aged parents, supporting neurodiversity, like through everyone you can think of, like supporting all of those people through neurodiversity, friendships that dissolve, business partnerships that dissolve, the depth and level to which I've supported people through grief, infertility. Oh my God, not just me, but so many of my clients have navigated infertility and loss at that level. People's husbands being made redundant, all sorts of different life experiences I have handled and held people through. I have 2 degrees. I am a certified life coach and mind-body practitioner. I am competing in wisdom. And I have stopped trying. Like you can see it in my Instagram. Sometimes I'll have great catchy hooks that hook people. Sometimes I'm just literally talking to camera with my shitty lighting because I'm competing at a wisdom level. And that's the playing field that I want to compete on this year. I've stopped trying to outpace the 20-year-old Jennies because I'm too old for that. So those are just some of the limiting beliefs that I've nixed this year. If any of this has resonated or if this episode has been helpful to you, I know that sometimes when you feel like you should know better, and then it feels really weird and wonky when you don't, or you feel like you have like, surely I shouldn't have this because I'm a life coach or a therapist or a psychologist or whatever it is, or I'm not a baby turtle anymore. Like, I thought I was beyond scarcity, and then you see that it shows up in a different way, or maybe you've been through a particular hardship in your life. Case in point, infertility. I nixed so many limiting beliefs when I was going through infertility and really became a very healed person. Case in point, one of my mantras going through infertility was get more support. Like, just be so fully supported in all areas. Get mindset support. Get support from your fertility doctor and someone who is naturally based. Get support in every area of your life. Get support around your house. That was the mindset that I had. And so it really surprised me that last year I had to kind of overhaul that belief again. I see it with clients too, especially, for example, clients who are in the food and wellness space. And especially if you are in your 40s, we have all had such a relationship with food and body image and all of that stuff. But what I find really interesting is that a lot of the times we can overcome like scarcity with food and body image and eating, but then it replays itself again in our business, right? And so you'll have to learn potentially lessons again and again and again in all of the different areas of your life, through infertility, then through parenting, then through business, then through your relationship, like relearning experiences. So one of the things I would ask you, if you wanted to reflect on going into the year of the horse and coming out of the year of the snake, what are some limiting beliefs that I can shed? And the first place that I would look is in your area of expertise. You may not have had these life experiences, but you may have clients and you see it again and again. What are the things that play out again and again in that context that may also be playing out in other areas of my life, my business, my relationship, my health and wellness, whatever it is? Have a look at those limiting beliefs. And if you always need a place to start with limiting beliefs, I always recommend starting with food as well. Do I feel like I always need to finish the things on my plate? Is that a sign of scarcity? Right? All of these different things around food. Do I have the Last Supper effect going on with food? How might that play out in a business context as well? So starting there and having a think about those things. The next thing is have a look at your beliefs and your values, especially when it comes to your thought leadership, and even just write down like, I don't do this or I don't want this because. And for me, I got to a point last year where every time I thought to myself, I don't want that, I'm not going to do that, that's not going to work, I was like, oh, hang on a second. Is that some kind of belief? Especially when you're like, that won't work. But will it? Would it? Do you know this? Have you actually tried? And that was literally, I was like, but have you actually tried? And then I kind of had this mantra of like, well, let's fuck around and find out. So asking yourself that question, where are all the places around like that, like just blocking, like, not going to happen? And then ask yourself, is this a truth or have I created this belief? Have I actually experimented and found this to be true for myself? Or have I somehow, thought of this? And then go through from there and just do a check-in with yourself as well. Like, how am I feeling and how do I want to feel? And what might be in between those two things? What are the stories that I'm creating about what may or may not be true that I can potentially shift and change. Again, I hope this has been such a helpful episode. If any one of these is resonating, then please come and find me in the DMs and let me know, because that would make me feel incredible if I'm not the only one who has wrestled with some of these, or if I'm not the only one who has felt like 2025 was the year of shedding, and that you have done so much shedding and now you are well and truly ready for the year of the horse. Have the best day, and I'll catch you next week.